Well, Scotty, I do believe with all my heart, if you looked up the word kindness in the dictionary, you would see a picture of Fred Rogers right beside of it. Wouldn't you think?
Probably so. Look at all that. Was that just for the camera, or was this guy this courteous?
Actually, he was. He was. Remember as we're watching the video here in the studio, remember the famous sweaters that he wore? Well, you can't buy those, Scotty. You know why?
Oh, why's that? Is that true?
His mother knitted all of his sweaters for him up until she passed away.
That is dedication.
And I do hear that one of those sweaters is actually inside the Smithsonian. Now, as we watch the video here in the studio, my next point is, did you ever wonder why Mr. Rogers wore sneakers? He wears dress pants, right? Dress shirt, a tie, a sweater. Why does he wear tennis shoes and not dress shoes?
I bet you have the answer to this question.
I do. It's another Mr. Rogers moment. Actually, he did not like the sound that his dress shoes made clonking across the floor, so he wanted to be courteous to the staff members and the people that he worked with that were doing the filming, so he decided to wear quieter shoes, which was now the famous tennis shoes.
What a polite gentleman. Wow.
Also, I have on good authority that he may have saved public television and the VCR. There's two instances that one is where President Johnson had proposed a $20 million bailout for public TV when it was about to go under. Well, President Nixon was almost ready to cut that in half to $10 million. So the TV industry probably would have went under. Mr. Rogers went and lobbied and got it back to the $20,000. On a separate incident, Mr. Rogers actually lobbied for the VCR to say that it was personal use of recording something at home of public television was not a copyright infringement. So if it had been labeled a copyright infringement, the VCR would have never taken off and we wouldn't have the VCR or the DVD player today.
And good old VHS tapes. By the way, while we're on this, I saw the other day somewhere a guy has his whole basement made up as a video store.
Oh, really?
VHS tapes.
Yeah.
I thought that was neat.
That's
It's like
pretty
going
cool.
back in time.
Come down and shop. Yeah, well, pretty cool. Well, it wasn't the Mr. Rogers really he didn't care for what he saw on the television for kids. And when he argued to keep television, he said it's a medium that could be used to help children and help families. So as history tells it, when he saw what was on the TV for kids, he thought to himself, I could do a better job, and a better job he did. Answered all of the mail. From what I understand, it was a daily regiment that he answered all the mail. And also, Scotty, some of the animations and drawings and stuff that the children sent in, he kept every single one of them.
I would imagine that turned into a lot over time.
Yeah. Well, lastly, it wasn't just kids that liked Mr. Rogers. It was animals as well. As you and I watched the show growing up, we saw a lot of animals on there. But Coco the gorilla, he was known, or she, I believe it was known to watch Mr. Rogers a lot. Well, one day, Mr. Rogers met this huge gorilla. And the first thing the gorilla did that did the sign language and everything was hug Mr. Rogers and sit down and take his shoes off. So you knew that the gorilla watched the show endlessly. So it wasn't just kids, it was animals as well that liked him. So with that being said, at the movies this weekend, Tom Hanks has some big shoes to fill. Yeah, we led right into that. That was pretty easy, wasn't it? A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood is out starring Tom Hanks, and it's a depiction of a friendship of his with a reporter that kind of chronologies his life as well. So that's out. Now, if you've been living under a rock, you'll know this weekend that one of the biggest movie marketing creation crazes of all time has part 2 coming out. Frozen Part 2. Oh my goodness, yeah.
Now, do we know yet if this is as much of a musical type situation as the first one?
I'm sure it's going to have some in it, but it's not the musical like they did last time. They actually released Frozen, and then they came back and re-released a musical version. And I went and I sat and I sang some of the stuff with my kids. So, but on this one, can Anna and Elsa travel to an enchanted land and find out where Elsa's powers came from? So Frozen Part 2 is out this weekend. Lastly, the actor that played the Black Panther is going to leave the Panther in Wakanda behind. He is caught up in a citywide manhunt for 2 cop killers. So they are going to literally lock Manhattan down.
Are they using the Waze app or any other navigation?
They may use something a little more sophisticated than that. The name of the movie is 21 Bridges, and they are going to shut down 3 rivers, 4 tunnels, every train and subway, and 21 bridges to catch these 2 cop killers.
In the big town of New York City.
Hey, big town of Manhattan. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So that's what's going on for new. But now the last week or so, the top 5. Number 5 came in Last Christmas, the holiday romance we talked about. Number 4, Playing with Fire, was John Cena's latest attempt at a movie or a comedy.
John Cena.
Yeah. Number 3, Charlie's Angels. I did go see that. A lot of people are saying they didn't like it. I thought it was, I just kind of took the movie lightly. It was fun. It was there was a lot of good moments in it and everything, a lot of twists and turns. But if you go see Charlie's Angels, stay after, because you're going to see some guest spots. Number 2 was Midway, and number 1 movie that raced to the top was Ford versus Ferrari, that outpaced all of the other ticket sales combined. Everybody else combined at 31,000. Ford versus Ferrari came in at 32 million. Sorry.
Well, I guess it worked.
Wow.
But is that the best title they can
Ford
arrange?
versus Ferrari was number 1. What'll be number 1 this week? We'll see.
Thank you very much. On Facebook at Movies with Bruce. We'll check in around 7:50 Thursday of next week. Bruce, have a great day.
See you guys.
Ahead, we will get back into the local, state, and national